A very happy morning to all of you. Welcome to Science Online Learning. Today, in this video, we are going to learn about a system which controls and coordinates the functioning of various organ systems and helps us to see and respond to the various things around us. Yes, it is the nervous system. So, nervous system is a network of specialized cells called as nerve cells, and the nerve cells are called as neurons. So, the neuron act as a communication link between various parts of our body. Our nervous system has got two main components, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is the primary control center of our body. It consists of brain and spinal cord, whereas the peripheral nervous system is a network of nerves that connects the rest of the body to the central nervous system. So in this lesson we'll be learning about neurons, nerves and the nervous system. First, we are going to learn about the structure of neurons. So, neurons are the basic units of the nervous system, and each neuron has a cell body which contain a nucleus in the center, and the cell body is called as cyton, which is also called as soma, and it has got finger-like projections called as dendrons or dendrites. So these dendrites, which have many fine or small branches, they help in carrying the electrical signals or impulses to the cyton. And there is another long tube-like projection which is called the axon, which extend outward from the cyton, and it ends in many small branches. So the axons of some neurons, they have a covering or sheet which is made up of fatty substances called as myelin, and such neurons are called as myelinated neurons, and the neurons whose axons do not have a myelin sheet, they are called as unmyelinated neurons. So the myelinated neurons, they conduct the impulses or electrical signals faster than the unmyelinated neurons. The neurons join with each other to form a continuous pathway so that an electrical impulse or a signal or a message can be traveled uninterruptedly from any part of the body to the central nervous system, that is the brain and the spinal cord. So the impulses can also travel from the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body. The junction at which the dendrites of one neuron connect with the axon of another neuron is called synapse. So at this junction, the electrical impulses or the electrical signals get transferred from one neuron to another. And the neuron that carry the impulses to the brain, they are called as sensory neurons, whereas the neurons that carry impulses from the brain and the spinal cord, they are called as motor neurons. A brain, spinal cord and the nerves form the nervous system. So the nerves are cable-like structures. They are made up of bundles of axons. The brain, spinal cord and the nerves form the nervous system. So what are nerves? Nerves are cable-like structures made up of bundles of axons, and nerves can also be of three types. First one is sensory nerve, motor nerve and mixed nerve. The sensory nerves, they carry the impulses from the sense organs or from different part of our body to the central nervous system, while the motor nerves carry the impulses away from the central nervous system to the muscles and the organs, and the mixed nerves can conduct impulses to and from the central nervous system. So next we'll quickly move on to central nervous system. The central nervous system is composed of brain and the spinal cord. So the brain and spinal cord receives information about various parts of the body and from our surroundings, and it directs all the information, it processes the information and helps us to respond through our actions. So it is the center of what we call consciousness. It helps us to think, to learn, to evaluate, to analyze, to make decisions and so on. First, we are going to learn about the parts of brain and function of brain. The brain lies within the cranium. So cranium is the set of bones which is called as skull, and brain is covered by a membrane called as meninges, and there is a fluid between the brain and the skull which is called as cerebrospinal fluid or CSF, which act as a cushion against any kind of shock. And it also helps in distributing the nutrients and other chemicals to the neurons of the brain, and it collects the waste from the brain. It also provides the neuron with some protection from infection. And there are three important parts of the brain. First one is cerebrum, second one is cerebellum, and last one is brainstem. So the brainstem is the one which connect the brain to the spinal cord, and brainstem has got three regions: medulla oblongata, pons, and midbrain. And now we are going to discuss only about cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. So cerebrum is the frontal part of the brain. So it is also the largest part of the brain, and it is divided into two halves. So we call it as right hemisphere and left central hemisphere. So these two hemispheres are separated by a deep groove. An outer surface of cerebrum, as you can see in this picture, is full of folds which increases the surface area of the brain. And this cerebrum is the center of intelligence. Their main function is they control learning. Your voluntary actions are controlled by the cerebrum. Your speech, memory, emotions, reasoning, response to pain, and response to heat or temperature, and the other senses like touching, smell, sight, hearing, and tasting. All these are controlled by the cerebrum. So cerebrum is the most important part of our brain. Next is cerebellum. So cerebellum is also called as small brain in Latin. It is smaller than the cerebrum. It is located below the cerebrum towards the back of the skull. So the surface of cerebellum has large number of thinly spaced parallel grooves. So the grooves are very thinly spaced in the cerebellum, and the functions of cerebellum is they coordinate the activities of the body, both voluntary movements like running, walking. So all these movements are controlled by cerebellum. It maintains the body posture. It helps us to balance. It plays a very important role in making movements like dancing or playing or musical instruments. And next one is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is the lowest part of the brainstem, and it lies in front of the cerebrum. So it lies at the lower level, and it is the one which connects to the spinal cord, as you can see in this picture. So it has a cone shaped appearance. So main function of medulla oblongata, it is the most important part of the brain because it controls the involuntary actions. So what are some of the involuntary actions? Heartbeat, breathing, sneezing, coughing, swallowing, vomiting, movement of food through the food pipe, and secretion of glands. All these are involuntary actions which are controlled by the medulla oblongata. Next, we are going to learn about spinal cord. So spinal cord is a bundle or bunch of nerves which runs through our backbone, and it is also called a central canal. So arising from the medulla oblongata, the spinal cord runs through the length of the backbone or spine or vertebral column, and it is protected by the bones of the vertebral column. And like our brain, the spinal cord is also covered by meninges that have the cerebrospinal fluid in between them. And the spinal cord, it relays the message from the brain to different part of the body. So it is also connected to all part of body by nerves. Lastly, we are going to learn about peripheral nervous system. So peripheral nervous system consists of nerves that connect the central nervous system, that is the brain and spinal cord, to different part of the body. And these nerves arise from the brain or the spinal cord. And each nerve has many branches that connect to particular area of the bone. So the peripheral nervous system, what are the functions? They connect the central nervous system to the organs, limbs and skin. They allow the brain and spinal cord to receive and send information to different part of the body. They carry the sensory and motor information to and from the central nervous system. They also regulate the involuntary body functions like heartbeat and breathing. So we have seen that the peripheral nervous system is involved both in voluntary actions and the involuntary activities. So the voluntary nervous system is a part of peripheral nervous system and is concerned with the movement of the skeletal muscles. It also carries the information from the sense organ. So it is called somatic or voluntary nervous system. So next thing is autonomic or involuntary nervous system. It deals with involuntary activities like heartbeat, digestion, respiration, secretion and excretion. So autonomic nervous system is controlled by the medulla oblongata. To summarize, in this video we studied about the two components of nervous system, that is central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Then we studied about the structure of neurons. We learnt what is synapse. We studied about the two types of nerves. Then we learnt about central nervous system. We discussed about the each part of brain, cerebrum, cerebellum and the medulla oblongata. We also learnt about peripheral nervous system in short, and we discussed about spinal cord. So students, it's time for you to complete your assignments now. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Have a nice day.